Welcome back to another evening of Scotch Hour. I'm Noah.
And I'm Jesse.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you to all of our subscribers on YouTube and Rumble and all of our podcast platforms. We greatly appreciate all of you. If you do like our content, please like, share, and subscribe to our podcast on any one of those platforms. And also, please leave us some comments. We'd love to hear from you guys and also communicate with everyone. Tonight's episode here, I think we'll have a pretty good lineup. We have our Torabhaig, right? Did I get that right? Torabhaig?
Torabhaig is how I understand.
Okay,
they
so
like to be called. Torabhaig!
Torabhaig. No, sorry. So Torabhaig 2017 Legacy. Then we have our shout outs and get it togethers. Then from there, we have a restaurant review, which is the Rock Restaurant and Bar. Followed up by our Smarter Challenge being Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves.
Scotch Reviewed.
Episode 109. 109 is the Torabhaig 2017 single malt Scotch whiskey from the Isle of Skye. This is part of their legacy series, and it is an interesting legacy, if nothing else, because in part, there's some open windows in this legacy. There are some vacated spots. So before 2017, for a span of time, it had been closed as it was renovated and reopened in 2017. This is part of their reopening venture. So this is the beginning of one of the oldest licensed distilleries on the Isle of Skye, the second oldest, as a matter of fact, reopening to bring out a Skye Scotch or whiskey. One of the things that's interesting about that, to me, my favorite up until now, who knows, may remain the same, may change, we're about to find out, is the Talisker Scotch whiskey from the Isle of Skye. Typically fairly peated, absolutely delicious. And now this Torabhaig, and that BH is... it comes out like a V, as they pronounce it. And then the AIG is how it comes out in English, American English, Torabhaig. It's going to be an interesting trip to enjoy this Scotch, which, man, really started rekindling their interest in the Scotch world in 2013.
Yeah, there's definitely some open windows, obviously, since I think it must have shut down. And when they did do the renovation, from my understanding, is that they used some of the stone from a fallen castle. So there's a fallen castle there right near the bay, and then they used that to help build one of the buildings, and it took them 4 years to do this restoration. So with that, it seems like even though it's been around, or it's been licensed, as you will, as the second oldest on Skye, it appears that it's basically because it has been renovated, and they use they also restored some of the old brass steels, that it's kind of almost a fairly new distillery house, I would say, even though it's been around for a long time.
Yeah. Man, you mentioning using bricks or stones from a castle made me immediately jump to Highlander. There can only be one Highlander. Of course, this is an Isle of Skye, so it's not a Highlander Scotch, but we will see shortly what those differences do involve.
And every distillery, they do pull from a select water source between two areas, which is I'm probably gonna butcher this, but Alt Briac and Alt Glen, and then that's where they get their so-called pure water source from.
And the select is drawn from a select batch of the 100 top barrels of their Scotch from 2017, and it is aged in oak casks, sitting at a 46% ABV, so not lean on the alcohol content. I say we go straight to it, revisit the Isle of Skye. So second after Talisker, this license, Torabhaig. The box itself, fairly handsome. I actually dig the colors, the presentation. I think most males will find it attractive. Very blocky, sharp angles, squares, rectangles, not a whole lot of fluid lines that usually the female eye is more attracted to. The bottle itself, not round, more squared than not. And much like the bottle, it has those same blocky label marks with the Torabhaig shaped by Skye and the 2017 Legacy series. So pretty interesting. It does seem fairly light on the eye through the bottle, but man, I love how well and passionately, if you will, how in depth they did stamp the foil on the top of that lid. I'm going to jump right into this once I find the opening spot. That's what she said. And the foil, nice thick foil. Actually, really thick foil. Well perforated. All right, plastic or wooden top. Wooden top. Pressed oak.
Cork or oak?
Pressed cork. Pressed cork. Smells nice.
Hopefully it is nice.
I know this was not an inexpensive dram. It wasn't also necessarily like hefty on the wallet, but it was not cheap. And with that, we are off to Warp Speed.
Warp Speed and our tasting notes.
Tasting.
Cheers. Torabhaig. All right, Torabhaig, for being a relatively, I guess, newer Scotch house, I would say, even though like it's been around and it's been refurbished and all that, they're technically a new Scotch house in my opinion.
Literally, I think this is the first year they've come back out with a Scotch, so you're 100% correct.
So I think I might have been a little bit more lenient in my scoring because of that, because I think there's a lot of potential here. When I do the aroma, I'm getting like some citrus notes with sea breeze, a little bit of vanilla, along with an ever so slight hint of peat. And it's a really kind of mild aroma. It's like it took a little while for me to even to start picking out any of the nuances from the nose there. And I find it like really nice, light, and refreshing. To me, this seems like very much like a summertime Scotch, which would be something that I could see myself enjoying this on a nice summer day. Now going with that into the palate, I didn't talk about the color here, but I'll go back to that in a moment. But the palate here, I had a hard time with this too because to me it's a very light bodied. Maybe I guess someone could say it's medium body because there is a little bit of body there, but I find it to be a little bit more on the light bodied side. I find it kind of more of a refreshing type of very quaffable type of Scotch. Something that you're not going to like get like inundated or nothing's going to like super like point itself out in this one here or overcome any one of your taste buds or senses with it with a certain flavor. But with this, initially I get this nice vanilla pear sweetness when it first hits my palate. And then from there, it kind of gets this nice briny sense, which I do enjoy from like nice scotches like Talisker or even like Oban. So it has that nice briny sense there. But then like near the mid to back palate, I start getting a spiciness. And I'm not really quite sure if it's like a crackle pepper or more of a cinnamon. But I'm kind of thinking I'm leaning more towards a cinnamon because as I go into my finish, I get hints of, once again, kind of like charred oak with some apple, and once again the brininess. But the apple with the brininess, you get like a sweet apple, cinnamon kind of flavor that kind of lingers, and I really enjoy that actually. The color, very light, very clear. I put it as like a light straw color, and the presentation, I wasn't a big fan of the presentation. Like don't get me wrong, I love the colors. I love the blue. I love the darker color. I think that's black if my eyesight's not too terribly shot.
It's almost black. It's like a super dark teal.
Okay. So I do like the coloring. What really bothers me about the presentation, and maybe this is because some of the work that I do, which is instructional design work.
I'm curious. I think I might have marked the same thing.
I just don't like I don't like a lot of words and stuff on there. So it makes the box looks too busy and not super eye appealing to myself. And same with the labeling. I wasn't quite exactly. I mean, I see what they're doing. I love the shape of the bottle. I think the shape of the bottle is cool, but the labeling, I'm not really sure I like the whole split labeling thing there. And once again, I like something that's a little bit less busy and a little bit more eye appealing and open. Yeah, things down more. So presentation, I probably could have knocked it at another point here, but like I said, I think since this is their first time coming out, they're trying to be different. I do like the fact that they use a wooden top, so I gave them a 3 out of 5. So I wasn't too harsh on them. I think if they'd been around a little bit longer, I might have been a little bit more harsh on that. The color, I'm trying to break out of the mold of my a light color equals a 1.
Skin.
Yeah. Which, so here, I like the kind of clarity of the light colored gold. So I gave it a 4. Once again, I could have easily knocked this down to a 1. And so, but I'm trying to explore my point system with like the coloring of scotches, and I'm not really sure I found like a really good warm middle ground for myself yet, as far as because first I started off with really rigid. If it's light colored, it's 1. If it's dark colored, it's 5. But now I'm trying to experiment here with my point system, and I haven't quite figured out what's a good middle ground for me. So I might have, like I said, I probably overshot this by giving it a 4 on the color. Easily could have given it a 1 if I went back to my old system.
Then our scores would have been closer.
Our scores probably would have been a lot closer. Because right now we're probably talking about 4 points off of what I have. So, so like I said, I was a little bit lenient on those two. I think the aroma, I actually thought the aroma was okay. My only issue with the aroma is that it was just so subtle and so light that it took a little time for me to really actually kind of get any of the nuances out of the aroma. And here, once again, I probably could have given it another 1 or 2 points down. But I gave it, a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here. So I gave it 25 points. The palate, I actually really enjoyed the palate. I did like the vanilla pear sweetness with the little brininess. And the starting of the finish being with that cinnamon kind of spiciness. And so here I gave it a 26. And then on the finish, I did like the charred oak with the salty cinnamon apple, I guess you would say, because I put the brine apple and cinnamon there, and I actually like that finish. It wasn't overly spicy, but it wasn't too sweet, and it wasn't like overly woody either. So here I gave that another 26. That gives me a total of 84 points if my mathematics are correct. We know that I screw up with math because math, right?
If math is right. Math is math. Goes math.
So I gave it 84 points, but like don't hold this as a word of God type of thing here. This could have easily been way lower in the 70s as well. There's a lot of like fluidity here, I think, in this particular scoring, as opposed to like some of the other ones I've done in previous weeks. Would I take this to a black tie affair? No, I would not. Would I take this to a poker game? Yeah, I'd take it to a poker game. Because I'm not going to be taking it to a poker game to really impress any of the guys. You know, I'm just going there for a fun time playing some cards or whatnot. Would I share this with a friend? Sure. This is something I could easily pull off the shelf and share it with a friend. Would I keep it on my shelf? I don't know. It has a place. I'm not sure if that place is necessarily on my shelf, but
it's got a place, not on my shelf.
But here's the thing is, like, once again, I could see this being a very easy, like, summertime or barbecuing type of scotch, where if it's kind of a hot day, like maybe like, you know, mid 80s or higher, this could be a very easy scotch to drink. And so therefore it could, you know, maybe like during the summertime, I could see it maybe on my shelf, as opposed to the wintertime. This is not something I probably would drink during the winter.
Much like yourself, I'm a little torn with this scotch, but I did not give it any graces based on this is their first or one of their first couple years since they have reopened. And if they're like us, they like feedback. And then if they're like us, hopefully we use it, right? So for me, first off, presentation 3, there's no surprise there, much like Noah. I love the colors. The colors are great, a little bit busy on the box, and then it just killed me. It literally killed me that the labels are not level. That one is higher than the lower, just slightly. And they may have actually intended that because of the way the box is. It may be intentional, but for me, it's not intentional enough, or it's a mistake. So slant it even more, make one longer, make one shorter, but don't have them be the same size and one off by a literal millimeter. It's literally killing me there. It just looks at me in the eye, and it makes me think sloppy. So presentation, it doesn't break the bank with presentation. Super doesn't make it sexy. I was torn between a 2 and 3. I gave it a 3 just because the colors, they won with the colors. So as I'm walking by, even though I'm distracted by all these unnecessary words, they could have all been put on the back of the box, like all this unnecessary business on one side. But the colors 1, 3. Color for me, much like Noah, I do love a darker dram. However, the lighter dram doesn't bother me. And so for me, 4 out of 5. I love the platinum blonde of this scotch. And so for color, it holds fast at a 4. The nose, this was my least impressive score, and that's only because it was the least impactful piece of the total presentation. There is an ever so slight hint of pear, brine, peat, and smoke, but all of them are ever so slight. It doesn't matter if I'm pouring it from one glass to another, if I'm using a decanter or not, I'm still only getting the slightest hint of that aroma. And so for me, the nose was where it lost its momentum, and it got a 22 out of 30 there. The palate, however, was the win for me. And on the palate, the palate is up there with the brine, and vanilla pops out. malt custard. It's almost got a cream soda middle with this scotch, and I am a huge fan of cream soda. A good cream soda, I'll pay $5 for a cream soda, just like I'll pay $10 for a great milkshake. $5 for a great cream soda is worth it to me, and this has that body, so that's where the win is. 26 in the body, the palate, and then the finish is just a little bit below that. I do feel like the finish is long. And throughout the nose, the palate, and the finish, brine is absolutely there. I enjoy that about it. The finish goes from that sweet vanilla to smoke and oak with an ever so slight hint of citrus, sitting at a 24. So my total score for this scotch is a 29. Now, 10 minutes ago, that's when I rated this, which was minutes after we opened it. And it may rise to the occasion, that's what she said, so to speak, over time, because I agree with Noah. This is a great scotch for summer. Now, here's where I'm really trying to elevate my scoring system. And when I think about it, would I take this to a poker game? Yeah, if it's the only thing on a shelf. Otherwise, didn't you pay $70 for this?
No, it was like 55.
55. So we'll say with tax 60. $60 for this. In the $60 range, there's a lot of other scotches personally that I would bring prior to this. But I would still, if this is what's on the shelf, I wouldn't hesitate to bring it to a poker game or share with some friends. Would I bring it to a black tie event? I think there is something for me about black tie which follows suit, if you will, with tradition. And for me, the Torabhaig just isn't there yet. Give it some time. I'm not trying to do something new. This is not going with me to a black tie event. You mentioned the friend piece again, and I was thinking about that. And if we had Brian or if we had Casey back on the show, is this something we would jump off the shelf and tell them, you have got to try this? And for me, that's a no. That's where I think for the friend piece, it kind of breaks that piece as well, is because I'll be like, if you want to try something different, yeah, there might be some left in this bottle. Otherwise, try the Dalmor, try the Lagavulin, try this Oban. Don't miss this Ardbeg. This just isn't there yet. It does have the potential, but it's not there yet for me.
It's time for our shout-outs.
Man, my shout-out has to go to man. How do you say this in a positive light? God damn, a long race for Max Verstappen in the Australian Grand Prix. Way to take your first victory in a tumultuous race in Australia in 2023. So Max Verstappen, well earned. I think Honda has done you well. I know Red Bull has done you well, and I know you have done them well. So cheers to you. I loved watching you drive.
I think it was kind of weird because I was watching that live, and like when they did the red flag with 2 laps to go,
holy
Verstappen
shit.
was like, "Why are they doing this? Like, why don't they just end the race? Like, finish the race off of that?" And it was, and I think by them doing that, and I don't say this is like a get it together to like the whoever's the ruling board
stewards, yeah,
it's like, why, like with only 2 laps left to go, you're putting out a red flag, which means they have to go reline up in the grid again and then take off. And then when they did that, like Alonso, who was in 3rd place, would have dropped all the way out, like maybe down to like I think 8th or 9th because of the wreck that happened, and it almost wiped out like the whole field. And so because they didn't even make it past like the first section,
so
that they had to like
do it again.
Well, they didn't like necessarily redo it again, but they had to go reline up in the grid. And because they didn't make it past the first section, everyone had like lined back up in the grid that they were already in. And because of those like 2 or 3 cars or whatever got destroyed, then those guys who were, I think it was who were they? It was the pink cars.
Alpha.
Yeah. So they were like, those guys were not like, they haven't been running it like, they haven't done really well last year, and then like this is the first time both of them are going to finish in the first, in the P10, and then now they both got knocked out. It's just like, and then Alonso would have like lost out on third, but luckily since they didn't make it past the first section, Alonso at least got keep the third place. And I don't know, it just, to me, with already 2 red flags, a few yellows, it's just like at that point, like why even like restart it with 2 laps to go? Just like have him like finish it out in the yellow car, and then like
the safety,
yeah, safety car, and just on the yellow flag, and just like end it, and not like put anyone else in danger. Like, because when you group them all up like that, it kind of, it's fun to watch, but at the same time, like a lot of people got screwed.
So tense. Tense. First thing I have to say, laughing about it, is, have you ever seen those clips where they like show like Indy or NASCAR safety cars versus Formula One safety cars? And like the NASCAR can be like a brand new Corvette literally spinning out, trying to like pace these cars. And then there's the AMG Mercedes pacer car in Formula One, and it's like flying around corners at 110 miles per hour, not doing the 150 that the Formula One cars are, but still pretty damn impressive. Hilarious to me. All I can say is Max Verstappen, this is my true to heart feeling when this was happening is, and I'm sure Hamilton felt the same way. God damn it, 2 years ago, this is how Verstappen won his first F1 championship. And everyone was talking about it. And now he's feeling like this race win could be stolen from him. Guess what? You kept the win. There was a difference. You didn't lose. But yes, understand that is how Hamilton felt. And if you can learn and grow from that, man, you will be all the bigger man if it ever happens to you.
It's funny because the announcers were talking about that.
Oh, hell yeah. No, I know. But it was literally the first thing I was thinking before they were talking about it. And it's like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like...
And like you could also see like Verstappen talking to his team about like what did Hamilton do like on the initial green light, because he got beat out by Hamilton and Russell, and so he was like really trying to like figure out how to block him and stuff like that, and he did a good job of blocking him on that restart. But yeah, like it was a total chaos going into that first turn or whatever it was. It is Formula One, and no one got seriously hurt. No one did. And that is the ultimate win. These teams have incurred, you look at these damages, and please understand, if you've never watched Formula One, hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage to the cars. That's not including that could have all been avoided. It could have all been avoided because they all ended up in the same spot that they were in before. Right. But nonetheless, really, I think it's a grow moment. And when I say this, I mean it sincerely at the heart. Hamilton and Verstappen, please look at this and realize 2 years ago, that Formula One World Championship was determined by a similar incident. And the difference was chance. It was not intentional. It was nothing else. It was victorious moves. And had it been turned the other way around and there not been another red flag, Verstappen here would have lost the same as Hamilton did 2 years ago. So there is just that piece of chance, and it is reality, and it is history. And at the end of the day, when I'm at work, there are times when I have to do the same thing and I go home and I'm not happy, and I have to be like, did I give it 100% whether or not I won? Yes. I'm still going home. Victories. Yeah. Well, my shout out, I mean, that was a great shout out, by the way. That was fun to talk about. We just talked about that way too long, man. 15 minutes later. So my shout out, I have two of them. One is to former President Trump. For coming out and doing a speech and talking about like if you're a supporter of his, if you're not doing well, don't contribute any money to his campaign. Save that money for you and your family. Your family is more important. So I thought that you don't really hear about politicians really saying that. Usually they're all about like, give me donations, give me donations, give me donations. I think he's like one of the very few, if not the first, that said, hey, if your family's not doing well, don't contribute to my campaign. And I thought that was really cool of him. And then my other shout out goes to Brian, who has been like a kind of a special co-host for us here, or repeating co-host, for inviting me out for a fun day. I had to go play some Top Golf with him and stuff like that, so that was enjoyable. And shout out to Casey, because I saw her there at Top Golf, so shout out to her as well. Those are my shout outs.
All right, get it together.
Get it together. This has to boil down to the monetary policy that our leaders are trying to pursue and not trying to take the lead in the global economy or global currency race right now. Right now, we have the BRICS nations, which are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South America, as well as some others that are coming together, and they're on the verge of releasing a new global currency, or I guess I don't want to say stablecoin, but global reserve currency for the BRICS nations, which at this case, that will be the death of the US dollar. And our politicians and our policymakers, which could have had a lead in this and could have actually taken the lead and still be the global leaders of the currency wars, we could still be dominating, but they've been like shooting themselves in the foot when it comes to cryptocurrencies, gold standards, and trying to hold on to the antiquated paper fiat system. And I think they just need to get their act together.
Oh, my only get together is for anyone and everyone who was surprised that OPEC Plus reduced their output. Oh, wait. So there's another country, major oil producer, spending $10 billion to help China create a refinery in China. And now we're surprised that they're cutting down production for, well, I don't know, maybe a few years till that refinery is in full swing. Yeah, that's my get together.
And the funny part is both of our get togethers actually are intertwined together.
They are all about money. And then also, wait a minute, everyone who hated Donald Trump for creating oil lines and helping the U.S. produce extra oil and doing X, Y, and Z, and now Biden is allowing people to bid for refinery sites in the Gulf of Mexico and has reopened oil lines across America. Oh, so wait, where was the electric vehicle push? Oh, yeah, we haven't even gotten to the point where we're talking about all of the children in certain nations, most of them African or South American, that are dying because they're child labor, helping mine these materials for our electric vehicles. Terrible.
Republic of Congo.
For those one of the many.
Yes.
One of the many.
This week we went to The Rock.
Yes,
Restaurant
off of Smoky
and Grill.
Hill.
Yeah, off Smoky Hill, and I have no idea what the crossroad is.
It's almost there by the mall.
Yeah. When you pull in to the parking lot area, I kind of thought the parking spaces were a little bit tight, or maybe it could have just been like it was full, and like the first open spot I kind of saw was between these two big trucks, and so I didn't really want to chance it with my vehicle.
Some things you want tight, not parking spaces.
Exactly.
For a car.
Exactly. When you first walk in, I think this place is a little bit weird. It has like a family side and a bar side to it. And if you're not, that's not something you typically would see in Colorado. And I don't know, I thought it was a little bit weird. But, and even the bar area, like I wish, the bar area seemed like it could have been a little bit bigger. I don't think it was like quite set up the way it, like the most proficiently as there could have been. But it was, the place is, was kind of hopping for.
Dude, it was busy as hell for a Monday night. It's 5.
Yeah. So most of the time, like most places we go to on a Monday night, it's kind of bare. But this place was actually kind of full. They had a happy hour from 4 to 6. We got there like right around 5 o'clock. There's $1 off on pints. We got some chips and salsa for appetizer, which like the chips were a hit and miss. Like some chips tasted great, some chips weren't so great. The salsa, I wasn't a huge fan of the salsa. To me, it just seemed like it was like one of those kind of store-bought kind of salsas, but rather than like a freshly made one. I did get the New York Mexican sandwich, or New York strip Mexican sandwich, I should say. And basically, I mean, it tasted good. I liked it. But I don't know, maybe I think they should have done a little bit more like a Mexi burger type of thing. But all it really was is like this thin, like a thin strip of New York strip that was wrapped in a tortilla with like green chili on top of it with like cheese and some lettuce and tomato and some sweet potato fries. It was actually like the flavor was nice. I actually liked the green chili and the cheese, and the sweet potato fries were very good. I liked that a lot. I think maybe I probably should have gotten something different. I wasn't disappointed, but I don't think it was like, to me, it's just like, you should just give me the New York strip without the tortilla wrapped around it. But it is what it is. And so as far as this is like, I guess, in our middle classification, because it's not fast food. It's not like fine dining. So it's going to be the middle area. The food itself, I enjoyed it. I'm going to give it a 7. I'm going to give it a 7. It wasn't like fantastic, and it wasn't like terrible. I think 7, like 7.5 would probably be a little bit better, but we'll just go 7 there. The wait staff, they came around just enough. Like we'd have to really wait or really ask for them. So I'm gonna give that an 8. They didn't do anything like super impressive for me or anything like that. The atmosphere, I actually kind of enjoyed the atmosphere, even though I don't really I thought it was just like long and kind of like shallow. But I mean, if I lived in that neighborhood, I could see myself visiting that area pretty, frequently. So I give that about a 7 as well. I think the real win here is I actually think they give you good value with the food that you get. I don't think the value is all that bad, but overall, I'm going to give it a 7.5. Would I take a first date there? Probably not unless it's like on my way to go do something else. When I meet some friends there, yeah, I could do that.
I want to come back to that friend and date atmosphere here in a few moments and revisit that before we get to our smarter challenge, because I think that is something that starting this next episode, I really want to revisit the scale for, much like with our scotches, we've started to give them a score. I want to do the same for a restaurant on a higher elevated scale as far as where does this actually fall for us, because the last several restaurants, I have found myself in a conundrum of why would I take a friend there but not a date there, or why would I take a date there but not a friend there? And we've had both in the last several weeks. So the Rock restaurant and bar for me, I started with the Rock Climber IPA, which is a Living the Dream brewery IPA. I believe it's right around 6.8 ABV. Delicious. Hit the spot. Ready for it. Day off of work. I was ready for my first and second beers, which went great for me with the chips and salsa. Much like Noah, I had chips that were a 100 on the scale where I'm like, this is the best damn chip I've ever had. This is no normal chip. And then I had other ones where I'm like, this is not a McDonald's hamburger. I don't know if you've ever seen Raw with Eddie Murphy, the those were those two quotes are coming from. And he's talking about just some of them are great and some of them are not. The chips ultimately were good. The salsa for me, unlike Noah, who did not find it a fan of it, I was getting giant chunks of their, as they had on their menu, stated a homemade salsa. I loved it. I dug it. The salsa was a win. The chips were 50-50. I went with ultimately what came out was a steak burrito, as Noah mentioned. They call it one thing, you get another. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't great. The service was well done. So an 8 for a score on service, you got to remember, is that's high end. This is a middle range restaurant. It's not fast food. It's not high end. So it's following that middle range. 8 for service. Food for me overall was a 7. Again, had all the chips been a 10, like some of them were, and not a 5 like others were, that food score would have been higher. They definitely did well with the burrito. With, you pay extra for sour cream and guacamole extra. So am I. So get over it. With that though, no problem there. Ultimately, the food though drops to a 7 only because it was inconsistent. I don't understand why there was that inconsistency with the chips. Atmosphere. Ultimately a 7 for me. You mentioned there is a bar side and a restaurant side, and there is no sight of the two commingling, and that to me was a detractor. That took a little bit away from my total experience. Would I take a friend there? Man, this is where it gets tough. If it's the only place within walking distance, yeah, I don't know the area well enough to say that I'm going to go somewhere else. But otherwise, just down the road, one way or another, there are other places I'd rather be, even though the food may not be as good. The atmosphere and the total experience is better. And then the date experience is another piece that I'm really starting to consider. And, we talked about the Sahara restaurant last week. Would we take a date there? Would we meet a friend there? And that's what really got this started to a next level, an elevated level to me is, man, it's not that anything was bad. It's not that I wouldn't go there, but it's not a destination for me. And that's the same with this place is, if I'm going to this general area, I'll go take an extra 10 minutes, drive down the road to meet a friend or to go on a date, because it's not like there's anything else there. It's not like there's a used bookstore where I might find a great Ian Fleming James Bond book and have to buy it, or that there are other shops or botanic gardens or anything else nearby. It is a win for its regulars because it's the only thing in the area, and it's not my area. But ultimately, overall, gets a 7, which again is not a bad score. It's kind of that middle range, but the end of the day, the difference between a 7 and an 8 or a 7 and a 6 is it's not terrible, 7 to 6, and it's also not a destination, 7 to 8.
All right, this week we have a movie review of Dungeons and Dragons
Honor Among Thieves.
Spoiler alert. Obviously, we're going to be talking about a movie. So if you haven't seen it, screw you.
Maybe we just need to have that in the opening screen. Spoiler alert. Anything you see on here will fuck up any predetermined experiences if you're planning to go to a movie that's about to come out. Yeah,
never mind. Like, honestly, I'm just joking. Like, not screw you. But yeah, if you haven't seen it.
Unless you're a hot supermodel, right?
Yeah,
then he'll screw you.
Okay. So, I don't know. Where should we start with this?
Oh, man. Okay. Let's start with the basics, man. This is an old school Hasbro bought the rights to Dungeons and Dragons game. There was originally a movie series, a trilogy, started in 2000, finished in 2012. This has nothing to do with any of that.
Nor does it have to do with the role-playing games.
Right, that's my point. It's like, it doesn't have anything to do with Hasbro games. It has nothing to do with the previous trilogy. This is not even a freaking reboot. It is an attempt to renew. And it's interesting. I do believe that is the good premise of it is an action, adventure, fantasy, heist comedy. And that's literally how you should advertise it. Again, no connection to the previous trilogy that started in 2000 and in 2012. No real connection to Hasbro's Dungeons and Dragons. It's a role play game. And they mean like dice, but let's face it, people are dressing up and playing the role.
Did you see some people like that at the theater?
Oh my God, dude, it's great. I actually love that. I wanted to dress up like John Wick the first time I went to go see it, and I didn't, and I regret it.
Yeah, and then they like the popcorn thing is like a one of those like 32-sided like rolling dice.
Freaking loved it. I actually loved it, and
I think that's a cool looking like popcorn box.
I never played the game, but I almost bought the popcorn box. I was just like, day off. Not into popcorn at the moment. The drink, though, the Dungeons and Dragons drink, freaking terrible.
Oh, did you get that?
Yeah, it was $18 with $1 tip. Not worth it. Terrible. Literally, it was $16 plus the tip, $16.50 plus tip. And I'm like, sip. Damn. Should have bought a Rockstar.
So we have and you could probably do a better summary than me since you saw it today, and it's been a couple days for me. But we have Chris Pine, who is a bard.
Edgin.
Edgin, yeah, that's his name, but he's a bard. And then we have the warrior, which is Michelle Rodriguez. Her name's Holga.
What is a bard?
The guy who kind of plays the little thing and sings and is kind of like a spy.
There you guys go. If you didn't know it, which I did not before this movie, that was my only point here is, what the hell?
Then you have the wizard, which is played by Justice Smith, which is Simon.
I wasn't a fan of that. I didn't think he was the best character for that.
No, neither do I.
Yeah.
Then you got Sophia Lillis as Doric, and not even sure what kind of character she is.
I'm going to call her a shapeshifter
elf kind of thing. She like the elf.
I want to say a hot shapeshifter elf. She was the most attractive person in the movie.
And then you have Hugh Grant, who is I guess kind of like one of the main, or I guess, I don't know if you call him like the antagonist or the main bad guy, but he's right there. If he's not number one, he's number two bad guy.
He's that number one asshole in the movie.
Yeah, he is. His name is Forge, and I put it here off to the side of my notes, Lord Farquaad from Shrek. Because that's what his character reminded me of.
Total dick. Just gotta say it.
And then you got Daisy Head, which in her like normal life, she looks pretty good. But as Sophia, the like red witch or red sorceress, she looked.
She played the part well, and I actually thought she did. As far as an acting role, she had the best impact. Second best to me was definitely Sophia with the shapeshifter, and then third was Chris Pine. But Michelle Rodriguez did a nice job too.
Yeah, and then you got I'm not sure how to say his name, but Reggie Jean Page or whatever, whatever.
Zenek.
Yeah, Zenek. I thought his character, as the paladin, I thought he was going to be more involved, but he was only in there for like 10 minutes. It felt like his character was so like misused, and they could have done so much more with him.
Absolutely intended for a sequel.
Yeah. So, it starts off with Chris Pine. He's like kind of or it shows him being a part of like some special guard or like military unit that gets paid dick. Like he gets like no money.
Word's coming up a lot. That's what she said.
Like he gets like no money for him and his family. So eventually he is like, this sucks. I need to be able to provide for my family. So he steals a piece of gold. Damn it. And then the Red Wizards come back, kill his wife. Then he goes into a drunken stupor. Doesn't really pay attention to his kid much, and then inserts Michelle Rodriguez as Holga, who kind of like basically slaps him back into shape and takes care of the kid. And then they hook up with Hugh Grant, Forge, and then they become like thieves and robbing people and stuff like that together. And their wizard at the time was Simon, who's like this insecure, whiny little bitch of a wizard. That's just my take. But he finally finds his balls later on.
You always had them. You just had to find them.
And then they so basically it comes to the part where both Holga and Edgin are in jail because they go to rob the place to get this piece of magic bark or magic wood piece that will bring his wife back to life. They get caught, and so now it's all about them trying to get his daughter back and revive his wife, basically. Is that kind of like summing up okay, or am I missing some plot holes here?
No, you didn't miss any potholes, but yeah, it's the basic premise is, it's a love story with children, and that always complicates things when other males or females become involved and are just as much, if not more impactful than the original parent.
I think it's kind of funny too, like in this movie here, is that I'm not saying it's not necessarily funny, but Chris Pine.
God damn it, Star Trek.
Chris Pine doesn't really realize how much Michelle Rodriguez's character means. And likewise, Michelle Rodriguez's character doesn't really realize how much Chris Pine's character means. And I guess they do discover it at the very end that they're actually kind of like a family.
They do, but they also have it very much as a blended family, whereas there is no intent for them ever being a couple.
Yeah. I think it's funny though how as you go through like Michelle Rodriguez's character Holga, how she was married to this like midget dude.
Dude, that is absolutely hilarious. Again, Shrek. Lots of references to Shrek here. Dude, the guy's like, I loved you until you wanted more than me. Wait, what? God damn it, Mini-Man. And then, you know who the Mini-Man was. That's the best part ever, is that it's played by Bradley Cooper, one of the sexiest men on the planet. And all of a sudden he's cast in this role where, dude, nobody wants you. You're a fucking Mini-Me. God damn it, man. You are the least sexy man in this movie.
And then the person he found to replace Michelle Rodriguez was even worse looking.
Dude, but another giant compared to him. Like, he's like... I can't even imagine. I'm just like thinking, I'm going to insert my head to get you to feel something. That's all I could think, dude. I love you.
All right, so who's your favorite character in this movie?
Oh, absolutely for me. Man, it's tough. My favorite character as far as he had the biggest impact was Chris Pine as Edgin. But my favorite character actually was Sophia Lillis as the shapeshifter Doric, just because she had the biggest impact. And she really had this piece where from beginning to end, much like every one of them, you use the term character arc. She had this character arc where she had dated the magician that everyone hated, myself included. The soy boy. Yeah, soy boy. And then at the end, she's like, yeah, okay, we can try again. And like his biggest problem is he opens his mouth at the end. Like she's like, okay. And then he's like, yay. And she's like, shut up. Not really like that. That's an over exaggeration on my part, but that's the truth. Is she's like, dude, you're a winner, but you're fucking weak in the mouth. And there is a truth to being able to like support yourself fluidly with verbiage communication and verbal communication. He could not do that, and that was his opportunity.
Yeah, so for me, I would say, obviously Chris Pine is probably like one of the bigger characters that carries and pulls this movie, but I think there's some parts where Chris Pine is Chris Pine and it makes it great, but then there's other parts where it just like he wasn't like, it didn't seem like he was like fully vested in it. But my overall, I guess, the one character I found that was like most entertaining for me. I won't say appealing or that I liked a lot, but entertaining wise to me, I thought Hugh Grant did a fun job with his character of being kind of like a shady, like friend, as well as like just kind of just being an all around bad person. And I just liked how he played his character. I thought he did a really good job of playing his character. Not to say that that was like the best good character, but I think as far as how he played his bad person character, I thought it was the most entertaining of them.
All right.
And I think that's why I kind of came up with Lord Farquaad there, because he was kind of goofy and he was like really slimy and I don't know, just kind of like backstabby, but not a character I would want to like emulate or want to try to like anything like that. Right. His character arc kind of went in reverse order. It didn't get better. I think it got worse. The only kind of redeeming quality, I guess, of anything he had is he did take care of Edgin's daughter, but the shitty part about how he took care of Edgin's daughter is he lied to her about why her father was gone. But the one kind of thing I liked about what he said about I don't know where he said it or who he said it to, but I think he mentioned to her, like, you make me want to be a better person in a way, to kind of like be that role model for her and stuff like that. So, and I think in a way it kind of like he saw her as like a daughter figure in a sense, to where he wanted to provide for her, which I thought was kind of cool. But at the same time, he's like a total scumbag. So
that he was.
All right, what was your favorite moment?
I think my favorite moment is really, and it's tragic, it's right at the end of the movie when Edgin has to decide if he's going to save Holga, Michelle Rodriguez's character, or the wife, which was in the movie for minutes at the very beginning, and his daughter and her moments of clarity saying, you can't die, I need you, or what just make him, it's not a decision anymore, it's, man, my daughter needs this woman as a mother more than I need my wife, who was not even as much of a mother to her. And that was absolutely my favorite moment, because it's fucking tragic, but it's real.
So that would have been, well, not that one. It is my favorite moment as well. So I'm gonna put my runner-up moment. Runner-up moment, because you stole my moment.
It's just real.
It is. I think it's like, I think that's the reason why I say, like, earlier when I was talking about like how they didn't know how much they meant to each other, and I think it kind of like took him looking at his daughter to show like that his daughter saw her as a mother figure type of thing. And I think that made him really realize like the impact that she had on both his daughter and her, and realize how much she meant to him. So to me, that was like the most impactful and probably my favorite moment of the movie.
I cried. Like, I hate it. But my kids weren't there.
But my second favorite part of the movie, or what I put as my runner-up, is when they're talking to the parole board.
Yes,
and they're waiting they're waiting for John or something like that, or
we granted you parole.
So he's like,
yes,
he's telling him about his whole backstory, and they're waiting for this John character. I think it's John.
The bird. Yes.
Come up and everything like that. And they're like, quit stalling. Why do you keep stalling? Like, this guy is going to be delayed. He's not going to be here. And then finally, the guy shows up, and it's a bird, and there's a window, and they like tackle him to go have the Birdman fly him out of the jail. And as they're falling out, the guys are like, "We just pardoned you."
Yeah, I loved it too. That was
like one of the funniest and like kind of like.
And the reconcile at the end was also comical.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's so good. It's a good moment. I was laughing too.
Do you have a runner-up moment?
I think that would probably be it. because it's just it does reconcile from beginning to end, and not trying to ruin the movie for everyone, but at the beginning of the movie when they are pardoned but they go that extra mile anyway, that's reality, and it's tragic, but it's real for people who have to live hard, which is you have to have a backup plan. And if you don't have the answer to the primary plan before the backup plan needs to take action, you take action, and then ultimately your backup plan can backfire and impact negatively your original plan, but you couldn't wait. It's real. So they're waiting for this pardon they never thought they would get, and then they have their escape plan. They enact their escape plan right before they get their pardon. And then
it voids out the pardon.
It voids out the pardon because they were idiots, but it's all real because at that point, like, how were they supposed to act? It's real. And I feel it. It's like, you know, I was talking to somebody at work the other day and they're like, yeah, I had to get a new car, which means I had to start donating plasma. And I'm like, does that pay well? And he's like, yeah, the first month I got $1,000. And every month since then I've gotten 500. And then it starts to build up again after 6 months because you can X, Y, and Z. And he's like, yeah, just go give him an hour every 4 weeks. And I'm like, wait a minute. He's like, yeah, I make $125 an hour for each hour every 4 weeks. And the first month I did it, I made $250 an hour. And I'm like, and yet you're working here for $18 an hour. I'm like, oh my God.
You can only give plasma so much, I guess.
Right. But the point being is that's plan B, but it's also plan A at that point. Like, why would you ever stop? It's very interesting to think about. You and I, like, you go and donate plasma and you buy a $20,000 car and you can pay off that car in 2 years if you just donate plasma for 2 years, or you can keep working at your current job and pay off that car in 6 years. And ultimately, most people will choose just to pay off the car in 6 years, but there are people who don't really have that choice and pay it off another way. And it's just super interesting to think about what are you really giving up to go give them an hour a week 4 times a month? It was very eye-opening to me.
All right, overall impressions of the movie?
It was good, but not great. I'm not driven to go find a sequel. I thought it was fun. It was no Star Trek where Chris Pine was in it. There was no Cumberbatch being Khan in it. But it was definitely fun. Not something I need to go see a second time in the theater.
I agree. This is one of those ones where I think I had higher expectations for it after seeing the previews. I thought Chris Pine was going to be total Chris Pine. And I thought it was going to be like a really fun adventure to watch. But to me, it just almost seemed like everything you saw in the previews, it was like the movie like rushed to go from one point in the preview and then to another point that you saw in the preview to another point in the preview. And I don't know, it didn't seem to flow as fun or as adventurous as I thought it would have been or could have been. So I expected a lot more out of it, but it just seemed like it was just kind of like dull points to get to like the highlighted points that you saw in the previews. Was it entertaining? Yes. Was it fun? Yeah. But it wasn't like, yes, this was a great movie. I didn't walk out of there like with some movies. I'm like, that's a great movie. I gotta go see that again. And I walked out like, okay, well, I saw that. It's done.
Yeah, and that could change because John Wick 4, I walked out of it the first time, like, I should see that again. I walked out of it the second time, I'm like, I need to go see that a third time. And I think that's just going to continue because it creates this different envelope of intrigue, which this one has not so far. Yeah,
and I'm not even sure if they are going to make a sequel. Like, I didn't really... Did they have something there at the end? I don't remember if they had anything at the end. And I say through the credits, but I don't remember anything impactful.
Nothing except right at the end of the movie itself where the 5-minute man comes up and he's like, hey, let's go. So we'll see what comes of the future. But yeah, it wasn't a 10.
No, it wasn't. All right. Well, that does it for this week's Smarter Challenge. What is our next week's topic and Squatch?
All right, so we're going to have a non-official coin toss, and Noah's going to decide our future. One will be, we will have the Old Pulteney Hoodart single malt Scotch whiskey. The other, which we'll see when he decides one coin side versus another, will be the Singleton Glen Ord 15-year special edition single malt Scotch whiskey. All right, Noah, you can flip a coin or you can just say the word. Is it heads or tails?
Does the topic change?
The topic does change.
What are the two different topics?
That comes down to whether or not you pick heads or tails.
Well, I don't have a coin to flip, so tails?
Perfect. The only tail option was the mermaid. The heads, as if you had seen it on the camera, was the Old Pulteney. The tails option, the smarter challenge here is sea myths and monsters. So we've talked about Jaws. We've talked about Orca. And, you know, we have talked about these things, but things we haven't talked about are other ocean myths. So we've got the Loch Ness Monster. We've got mermaids. We've got all these great tales of ocean, and our smarter challenge is to bring up our top three, and we can have as many as 5. So 5 different tales we may want to bring up, but our top 3 and then our top 1, which is why is this so intriguing to us? And what more have we found out about it? So doing just a little bit of research about mermaids or the Loch Ness Monster or giant sharks, orca whales, whatever that may be. It could even go as far as, even though it's not so much an ocean thing, it is crocodiles versus alligators.
Loch Ness, man. Loch Ness
Dude,
Monster.
I agree with you, right? Scotland. Oh, yes, Nessie. So with that, you know, what are our top 3? What's our favorite one? What do we want to learn more about? And going from there, the Scotch, you know, Singleton, we have always talked shit about their bottles. This one will probably be no different. But god damn it, they made a cool canister. And nothing has made me want a mermaid more. All right, you guys, remember, drink responsibly. Please continue to give us feedback, and like, share, subscribe. Next week's Scotch, Singleton, Glen Ord, Sea Creatures, Mythology, and Noah, we'll pass it on to you.
Oh,
anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, so
life is great.
Life is great, and until next week. Scotchman! Cheers!
We hope you enjoyed this evening's episode of Scotch Hour. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you have not done so already, please become a Patron member, with memberships starting as low as $1 a month. Thank you, and hopefully you have a wonderful